proud to be an American. Release a giant mecha from South Africa that immigrated to Canada, then America. But it's basically the same thing as being proud to be American. My God, I'm paid to love this land. God bless our GDP. You don't know that. Let you in on a little secret. You'd have a hard time finding parts that aren't from China, ever, anywhere, at all. Like 90% of silicon and electrical PCB circuiting, 99% of it from China. Look it up. From Taiwan. And if it's from Taiwan, that means it's probably from other places. Well, like just low key. You'd think Taiwan and PRC, there's no way that they could ever collude in business, right? But you'd be Beijing wrong. Don't stop Beijing wrong about the night. There's something there. I messed it up. Man, graphene production to become cheap. Yep, yep. That way we can have capacitance batteries that die too soon. Nobody wants to put the time and effort into making things that aren't planned obsolescence. But yes, you know what we should do is instead of wait for graphene production to become cheap, is we stop being assholes and start recognizing like, hey, slave transistors that we're using shouldn't just be wasted on dumb masters or I mean sorry, dumb stuff like making more giving us higher resolutions on our screens or LED screens and more pixels, but instead, maybe for you know innovative high performance computing applications that advance our understanding of not the hokum and chicanery of quantum computing per se, but the quantum physics proper and how that can be used to study organic molecular motors using deep learning. We can improve our synthetic molecular motors, and we can come up with I don't know, fine grain crystallographic growth methods, and we can start borrowing that stuff that the USSR figured out a long time ago, and they're still with spintronics, and then start using it the same principles of spintronics, but like on a more granular level. Start just using energy efficiently, and those graphene lattices will suddenly actually make sense to use. Like instead of using graphene as this giant battery, capacitance battery, we can use it as a series of lattices to control the flow of photonic spin in a way that just makes sense and expends very little um, like it and unnecessary expenditure of energy would be reduced substantially, and channeling that we'd be able to get a lot more done than we do with our traditional crude circuitry. Heck, and I'm not even that hopeful. Like I would settle for like adopting thorium salt reactors for power delivery even, and then um, the devices themselves can be just something like in the vein of spintronics, where we just make more use of that energy. But we're not even going to get that. when I'm talking about organic molecular mechanisms, these are like well known. Like we find them. I mean organic in the sense of like we can't create them in a lab because they occur naturally. Like organic chemistry, OChem, we have a hard time reproducing these molecular motors, and our synthetic molecular motors are just so much slower. Everyone says that like the people who are worried about 5G are like tinfoil hats, but then you look at the research that's come out recently, last few years about 3G, you start to realize like everyone who decides whether this technology is safe or not is just dumb. Did you know though that you can actually listen to the electromagnetic noise that fungus makes? Like, and that further, there's one of the largest organisms on the face of the earth is actually like a 2 mile wide giant fungi, and it's in the northwest. I want to say it's in Oregon, if I remember right. It just it goes deep and it goes long, giant. It's just giant, like mushroom, basically, and you wouldn't know that unless you like studied it, but it's there. You just think you're walking along regular dirt or earth or something. But that giant fungus, as well as other like fungus, like mushroom, large like fungus patches, you can actually listen to their electromagnetic resonance, and you can transmit and receive information across their frequencies. You can connect you can like rig wires up to it and do that. I think it's funny. Another weird thing is that birds have magnetoreception. They've proven, and there's some studies that suggest that even human beings still have. It might be like a vestigial thing, but have some sort of magnetoreception where there's this part of the bird that helps its guidance, like how it travels. Yeah, yeah, because the CIA created them. The CIA made all of the birds. Lados, Lados, oh, their sick plot to make us believe that birds are real. But for real though, besides Lados' chicanery and involvement in the fake bird scenario, the actual birds that evolved on this planet have magnetoreception. Our radio frequencies that we're transmitting on, like we have like long-standing waves and such, and other experimental things going on, is screwing with the bird's magnetoreception in such ways that they start veering wildly off course from what their natural migratory patterns are. So it's like we are screwing up a lot of the planet's ecology in ways that like are way worse than just climate change. Like climate change would be bad itself in and of itself for just pumping all this, God knows what into the atmosphere. But then on top of that, we're also screwing around with the electromagnetic, like the ionosphere and like the electromagnetic spectrum of our planet. And I think we're due for another solar coronal ejection in the next few years, which I don't want to combine screwing with our planet's ionosphere and electromagnetic spectrum on like such a high grade like way that it starts screwing with birds' brains with alongside with like coronal solar ejections because our whole planet evolved to handle coronal injections by diffusing the electromagnetic radiation away so that there's like this consistent like safe pocket on this planet. And I suspect that the reason why North America was like this weird mystery that had to be rediscovered, air quotes, by Columbus, and or before that, that Viking, what's his name, might have had to do with a coronal ejection that was so bad that it caused more than just electromagnetic disturbance. Like it might have started wiping out like maybe it started fires, or maybe it started some sort of like possibly provoked some sort of geothermal events, like um, something under the Earth's surface by disturbing it. There's all kinds of scenarios. So, if anything, that Mayan calendar is just a way of them tracking the coronal injections, is what I surmise. Not doomsday per se, right? But just like, hey, some fucked up weird thing happens in the sky, and suddenly everything goes kooky, and the forest lights on fire for no reason, or like a volcano erupts. It's because this coronal ejection from the sun hits our ionosphere, or our electromagnetic poles go wonky, and sometimes that affects how our geologic processes occur, and as well as create the right conditions for combustion or all kinds of things. But for us to be screwing around with like the ionosphere and electromagnetic magnetic spectrum the way that we are, on top of changing the chemical composition of the atmosphere, just like asking for some sort of horrible thing to happen when a coronal ejection occurs. Like we might ignite the atmosphere or part of it somewhere,